Hello and welcome everyone to our monthly leadership call. It's Greg and Kai Hayes, your executive consultants from Austin, Texas. We've been in this business now 13 and a half years. That said, through the income we've earned in LifeVantage, we've been able to travel together in numerous places by working hard and winning promos. We've acquired in-depth training, which you're going to get again tonight, with our top executive consultants. We go on vacations wherever we want to around the world. We're able to support our orphanage in the Philippines. And we just helped financially a Samaritan to graduate into priesthood in the diocese of Tanzania. How cool is that? And you all, yes, you all can achieve a comfortable lifestyle like we have if you put an effort into what you're doing and commit with LifeVantage for 2 to 5 years like we have, and stay focused in learning the right skills. That said, tonight is a great start to learn the right behaviors from our top leader and trainers. And that would only be our presidential executive, Blue Elam, who was a former firefighter, but he rank advanced and worked hard to the top by finally and following the system that he's going to tell you about tonight. My favorite quote from Blue is, dig the well before getting thirsty. So without further ado, let's go ahead and learn how we can build the depth that he organized by applying the 4 phases of network marketing. So everyone, please welcome our presidential consultant, Blue Elam. Blue, you're on.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. This is exciting. Tonight, let's get to work a little bit on these phases. And I'm gonna talk about 3 phases. I think there's 4. I'm gonna talk about 3, just because of the 4th one, I believe if we were all maybe Kai's rank and above, then we would dig into the 4th phase, right? But it just doesn't really apply until we have a big enough team and enough leaders. But we'll talk through all phases tonight. So if you guys have something to write with, I believe this is the most important conceptual training. And then within each of these phases, we could literally break it down and spend a ton of time. And you've had that happen. I heard a little bit about what Mark had shared, I believe. I was kind of thinking back on who shared, and I don't remember exactly who shared what phase, but when you learn all the phases and you hear a training, you'll see it interject into certain parts of this. Actually, Seth Mulder, at our last virtual event, I was in the room with him. He had that recorded and he presented that, and then we were in the room when they were doing the playback, and it was so fun to watch him share all that. And I texted him, I said, "Hey, great job," and he laughed. He said, "Hey, that's your stuff, man," because he was talking about. I call it the 3 attitudes, right? Instead of the Beatitudes, it's the 3 attitudes. And he just talked about the difference of just being there by yourself, bringing people with you, or doing all that a week early so that they have a chance to bring people with them, right? That simple concept. And when he said that, it just made me feel good because I remembered presenting that years ago, not knowing if anyone listened, but then to see someone else later, right? Our past pro 10 or presidential level, turn around and say, "Hey, that's your stuff, and I learned and I used it. Thank you." And then to turn back around and see them present it again, even better. I mean, Seth obviously is amazing presenter, polished, way different style than I have, but it was amazing to watch him articulate right what I was trying to say correctly and put it out there to the whole company. So I love seeing that over and over again. And I'll talk a little bit to Gabe's comment, because Gabe said, "Here's what Blue taught me," during that thing as well. And he talked about this idea of exactly these phases. Okay. So first, let me present those phases a little bit, and then we'll get into a few of those stories, and then we'll get through what we can tonight, time wise, and then obviously we can continue this. My schedule is getting a little weird. We'll talk through all that, but so far this is working out on this first day of the month. And I'm sorry about this month. It was weird because you had a first day of the month that was a week earlier than our first day, so it was a little bit weird. But I think if we have it on my first day of the month, it'll fall kind of on a schedule, and we can figure that out. But phase one, and what I mean by phases, let me first talk about the idea of a phase. Too many people think a phase in this sense is, what do I do? Check it off, move on, don't do it again, right? That's not a phase. A phase is maybe a set of skills that you learn in step one, right? And then maybe there's a set of skills that you learn in step two and step three and step four. More importantly, I'm going to say maybe it's who you become in the process of learning phase one, or adapting or becoming the skill set, the leader that's needed to do phase one. Once you own that, it's yours. It becomes your intellectual property. It becomes your skill set. You own it. It's yours. And anytime the rest of doing your business, the rest of your life, you can perform that skill at a drop of a hat because you've learned it. It's now who you are. The reason I had to break this down into pieces, and this was literally something I woke up one morning and I wrote it down. I kind of had this dream about how to, I was doing a presentation to a bunch of friends of mine, and they weren't the type of friends I could just give them a manual and say, go to work, right? They were the ones that needed, when I joke around about being a firefighter, right? I always tell people to fireproof it, right? And it sounds all tough. And what it really means is to make it so simple so that us firemen can actually understand, right? We are pretty simple creatures. We see red stuff, we put wet stuff on the red stuff, right? When something's burning, we put water on it. Now, we don't mind being brave and going in and doing things that most people won't. But I will say that we learn things very, very systematically. Even the way we pull the hose, it's literally step one, grab the hose. Step two, look back. Step three, make sure no one's behind you. Step four, pull the hose. I mean, we literally learn every single step of our job through this step-by-step process. Now, the reason is because when you get in that situation and you get a little stressed, a little panicked, a little quick, things are going on, you can't just forget a step, right? Somebody's life is in danger when you forget a step. So we had to learn things that way on purpose. So here I am trying to present this information to my peers, thinking I need step by step, right? I can't just tell them to go become this leader, jump on stage, do this presentation. And they see some of us talking to thousands of people, right? Hundreds and thousands of people. And they're like, man, I don't want to do that. I was like, well, you don't have to right now. There's this process in becoming. There's a process in your business growing, a process in your business becoming big enough, right? And this is what we talk about, depth, right? But it's becoming big enough and deep enough to have enough leaders where your role may change a little bit, but your business will continue because other people in your business have become who you were, right? Or doing the role that you used to do. So once we learn all the roles, we can't do them all at once by ourselves. But once we start at phase one, we go to phase two, we go to phase three, we become all of those things. Then our job is to make sure we have enough people on our teams doing and the skill sets in those other phases, right? And filling the funnels in each of those phases. And when our team, our team, right? Think about that. That's pretty powerful when you think about it. When this team, right? Because tonight, Kai and Greg have a job. They've been doing that. And it's a little different from maybe the brand new person that comes in, right? And tonight, it might be a little different than what my role might be to step in and do a little different training and their role. It's just amazing to watch this. It's almost like this machine where it's a bunch of cogs and everything just shifts, right? Everyone takes a new step. We all progress. We all grow. The team gets bigger. The new person comes in, takes the new slot, and we all bump to the next skill set. And I've watched people get stuck. One of the reasons I taught this over and over again was because when you're stuck, it's because you're stuck in a phase. You may be really good at it, but until you're willing to step to the next phase, your business stops or halts or slows down, and you hit this plateau and wonder why things aren't growing. And a lot of times you're doing the same behavior over and over and over again, but you've lacked the ability or the knowledge on how to teach the next generation to do that skill. Okay. And passing that information down so that you can go to the next phase and allow someone to take over. Another common mistake before I get into these is holding on to the phase and not letting someone come up and take that because we're good at it, right? We get really good at a phase, and it's hard to watch people come up from our teams who aren't quite as good at it. And we think, oh no, that presentation wasn't quite as good as that I can do, so I'm going to do it. what happens is we end up taking that role, holding on the baton, and we don't pass the baton to them when they're ready. And our business again stalls out because we're not developing leadership. Depth is developing leadership. Leader backed by leader, backed by leader, backed by leader, right? When that happens in your organization, very quickly, I'll fast forward to my life. Accident, wake up in the hospital, 2 daughters paralyzed. I can't walk. My wife's going to lose a leg. All of this is happening. Business still flourishes because we had already dug the well, right? And that, I love that phrase, and thanks for bringing that up, Greg, because digging the well is more than just a pile of money, right? And at the bottom of that well, it's a pile of leaders. It's a pile of inviters. It's a pile of presenters. It's a pile of people dug this well, and we've already done the work. We already have people that know how to present. We already have people that know how to invite. We already have people in all of the phases of business. So if we have to step out, right, or we want to step out, I'll say that there's this concept that we work hard, build a business, and we can, I don't want to say retire. This industry doesn't understand the definition of retirement, but let's say you need to step out to do something, right? We've had people step out to go do some ministering work with something they really wanted to do. We've had people step out and go take care of business. We had to take care of some hurt family members that were ended up in the hospital. So you deal with that. Now, whatever happens, if you've dug the well and you have everything in place, then everyone steps up and does their job, and business doesn't completely fall apart. If you're wearing all the hats by yourself and you can't show up that day, right, or that week or that month, your business will feel that. Okay, so those are the reasons why we thought of this, and we came up with it and we developed it. Okay, we want you to have the 30,000-foot view first, and now let's break it down. Phase 1. Okay, I'm just going to break it down a little bit simple. It's inviting and enrolling. Okay, now that sounds like a big phase, and there is a lot of steps within these phases. But in general, my first job is to do all I can to develop a database, learn how to invite, right? Get them the information, get them to a presentation, and get them enrolled in the company. Now, I'm going to say that's distributors because this phases only works with, and I'm going to use distributors interchangeably because I know some of you guys are consultants and distributors and using that, but just know they're business partners, right? When we use a definition of distributor or consultant, we're talking about business partnerships, people that want to learn the phase because they're doing the business and becoming a leader. That's a little different than someone who says, I love your product, I'll take it forever, thank you. That's not necessarily the person that we're going to lean on to go through all the phases, okay? So just keep that in mind. So when I say invite and enroll, I am talking specifically about educating them on the business and our products, them seeing the business, wanting the business, and becoming a business partner, a consultant, okay? Now, you guys can tell me very quickly, maybe throw it in the chat, what does it take to invite, okay? Now, very quickly, let's just back up a little bit. It's going to take what? First thing, we're going to have, I'm going to say a why, a reason to invite, a business plan, a goal, something that we're after, because there's no reason to invite if we're just loving the products. There's no reason to invite if we think money is perfect. We already have millions of dollars. I don't need the business. I'm not doing that. Not really a reason. But if our why is bigger and bigger and bigger every day, and stuff's happening in life, and we see little writing on the wall, maybe the job we're at we don't like very much, maybe it's some time with the family that's lacking because of the job you have. I don't know. I had my own personal reasons, right? I found a quote on the wall one time. Greg, if you're writing down quotes, this is one of my favorites. It said, a dad's dream is to make enough money to live the kind of life his wife and kids do. And I loved it because that was my job. Honey, stay home, raise the kids. We had 6 kids. Our oldest was 7 years old and 2 months when my youngest was born. So you can do the math. They're about 14 months apart. 7-year-old, newborn, 6 kids. So you can imagine. So my idea of being home and having the life my wife has was making enough money, giving them what they need, making sure they're fed and clothed and they have what they need. My wife was laughing when I shared that quote. She says, sure, please come home and live this life, because there's one on each hip She has 2 in the stroller. They're all young. They're all, they need stuff. And my wife is amazing. She just said, go build. I got this. You get that. And, but hurry, hurry up. This is a lot of work. I want you home, but I understand that you can't build this business with one hand over there and one hand over here. It's harder. Now, people can. I've seen some amazing things. But one of the reasons we went through these phases quickly is because we had a plan and we had a job. My job was to run out and build the business while she took care of that and get that done as fast as we can. So now in the process of becoming right a good inviter and enroller in phase 1, we had to make a lot of mistakes. Okay. All of the leaders on this call will do their best to minimize those for you. We don't have any reason to hold back information. Think about this industry, right? It's not like the corporate ladder where if the better you are, you might take my job later, right? There's only so many presidential levels and I got to get one before you. It's not like that in this industry. That's what's so amazing about it. I want nothing more than, somebody said this once, to reach the top of the tower, turn around and throw ladders down to every single person coming up there, right? That is not the case on the corporate ladder, right? Or my fire department structure ladder, where the only time I was going to become the captain of that station is if he retired or something happened and he couldn't work anymore. Then there was an opening that we all fought for or interviewed for or compared, how many, whatever training you have versus the training I have versus the education I have versus, all this stuff to try to get that spot. And then once it was filled, you were back waiting again till the corporate ladder opened up above you. That is not the case here, right? That's the first thing I had to learn. There is room for everyone at the top. It's your own personal journey. And everyone that was giving me advice, even though it may have been slightly different or slightly even conflicting based on their personalities, it was the best advice they could give. It was leaders pouring their heart, trying their best. Some were polished speakers. Some were very educated and well presented, and some weren't, right? Some of us were just, blue-collared, hardworking kids that got to work, made some mistakes, figured it out, and got to the top of the company, fighting and kicking and screaming, but we got there, right? Other people, I think, are thinking too much because they're putting all this stuff trying to figure out exactly what I need to do and when. And by the time they figured it out, we were already 100 yards down the road just because we just started running before we figured all that out, right? So we started inviting, built a database, put our why on paper, right? I want the life my wife has. I want to be home with my wife and kids. I want to have enough money to be with them and not have to go to work, to leave them, to support them, right? It's always weird to me. I got to leave my family because I love them. I got to be gone and work 2 jobs because they need more, right? And, anyways, that concept was hard for me to understand. So I had a why, I had a reason, I built a database, lots of training around databases, right? We could spend a lot of time. The reality is just open your phone, put the names down, try not to be, there's a difference between judging, right, and pre-qualifying. I'll just give you the slight training real quick on that. Too many people judge incorrectly. They'll be good product people and they don't show them the business. Man, be careful with that. Right now, especially the lot of people in this company are pushing for customers, which I'm not against, but I'm afraid that too many people who want the business are only being showed the customer route because us distributors, we think that that's all they need, or we think that their health is the issue. You might be surprised with a little conversation that they could really, really use the business as well. So be careful to not prejudge, but I think it's okay to pre-qualify. And what I mean by that is there's a list of things that I looked for after I showed someone the information. There was someone who would call me at 3 a.m. the next morning saying, okay, I'm ready to go. There's people who I would have to call back 10 times to try to find them. Again, not totally bad, and some of those turned out really well. We keep following up. I get it. But there's a difference when somebody wants it, they get it, they see it, they have the same vision we do, something resonates inside of them, and they start running. That's the person that you want to say, okay, your turn to be in phase 1, right? Your turn to do a database. What's your why? Let's start showing these presentations. The beauty about phase one, hopefully, is that that's what the phase you're in if you're not ready or able to present. Okay. So you put your phase one hat on and you grab people and you take them to the information, right? Remember when Kai was in the corporate office down in Philip, people were just bringing people in, get them on the Zoom, get them on the call. There's all kinds of stuff now. I mean, that's one thing I think technology has helped is that there's no lack of information out there. I think sometimes we got a little less personal because all of our stuff was home to home to living room to living room. That's just how we built because I couldn't turn on a computer very well, right? And it actually helped me, right? I've never been on Facebook. Not that it's bad. I just spent my time shaking hands, knocking on doors, taking people to lunch, building relationships. And I believe this industry does very, very well long-term when you do that. And I think that anything less than that can work, but we start to decrease our chances of building a long-term relationship versus a quick customer or a quick whatever, right? So just take that for what it's worth. I'll never say those other things don't work because a lot of my volume in my business has come from Facebook. Just because I don't do it, I'm not naive enough to say that it doesn't work. It's all over my business. It's all over the place. So I'm just saying that some of the social media stuff and some of the ways people find people, I think are virtual handshakes and hugs, which might be the best we can do, especially when we had COVID and stuff we all dealt with. As soon as we can turn those into real face-to-face relationships, I think we're going to have a stronger business because of it. Leader backed by leader, backed by leader, relationship backed by relationship, backed by relationship. If something goes a little wonky in our business, something happens, something in the Philippines, guess what I heard, blah, blah, blah. You guys have all heard it. Those relationship phone calls that come up, or can I take you to lunch and let's talk? Those will save a ton of volume and a ton of people and a ton of business that you've already done because you've spent the time building that relationship, okay? So you bring your buddy in, his job, her job is to figure out phase one so you can move to phase two. Phase two is teaching and presenting, okay? Learning to take all this information and deliver it in a, and I'm not going to use the word professional because that's not what I think you're after, right? And I want to be careful with that. I'm not saying not be professional at all. I'm just saying don't hesitate on presenting because you don't think you have it perfect, okay? If that makes sense. Be willing to just be yourself, take the information, and present that, okay? So phase one, my why, my database, I take them to a presentation, we follow up, we resolve concerns, and we help them enroll, okay? You see those steps in there? Now, again, each one of those has subtitles and stuff, but the whole thing is around getting them in the business. The second thing we're trying to figure out is how to present, okay? Phase two is all about talking and discussing with guests, okay? Now, if you're doing it right, you've enrolled 5 people, you've taught them to do phase one, they're out with their databases, inviting individuals, guests, to a presentation that now you're doing because they're brand new, right? You brought them in, so they're brand new, potentially. And even if they're not brand new, it is way better to bring them to someone else's presentation than for them to be this expert that they think they have to become, right? If you just can bring them to Kai's meeting and say, here's one of our leaders, just listen. And you sit there and take notes. They sit there and take notes. When you get done, what did you think? I learned so much more. This is awesome. Oh, great. I love, as a presenter, you know what I always do? Hey, so-and-so, right? Who's on here? Ren. Hey, Ren, you brought someone to the meeting tonight, right? And I asked that person, what did Ren do tonight? And the less they did, the better, right? What did they do tonight? And they're like, well, I don't know. They told me they were going to buy me ice cream afterwards, so I showed up, right? Or whatever, right? Whatever it is, right? Can you do that, right? Well, they called me, told me they had something amazing. They picked me up and they brought me here. I told them I'd give them an hour of my time. My favorite invite, right? Can I have an hour of your time? People ask me for my hours of my time all the time. Sure, I'll be there, and I show up. And so I somewhat expect when I ask my friends, hey, can I have an hour? Sure, I'll do anything for you. Give me 1 hour to look at this. If it's not for you, great. If you see what I saw, we're going to be very, very, we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to help a lot of people with their health. We're going to help a lot of people with their finances. We're going to have a good time. If you don't see that, it's okay. We're friends. But can I have an hour of your time? Right? My favorite invite. We bring them to someone else's presentation, phase 2. What is a presentation? Right? Maybe that's a fair question. Everyone, I think, has some form of that. Obviously, if you're on the phone, it might be a little different than if you're on a Zoom, than if you're in a coffee shop and you got 10 minutes. If you're in a hotel and you have a solid hour to show everything, great, right? Company, timing, trends, product, compensation, and system. Some form of that. Now, some people use the pillars. Some people have been trained different ways. Those are the 6 things that people are needing to evaluate to say yes or no. Okay. I'll make it a little simpler for you with four things, 4 questions. Number 1, does the product work? If you answer that question, then you're somewhere in that presentation, they got the fact that we have a product that works. Okay. Second part of that question is, can the product work for them personally? Okay. Great part of a presentation. The product will work and it will work for you. Now, I had some amazing presenters. Okay. One of them had some form, they would shake all the time. He wouldn't use the word Parkinson's because he couldn't in the presentation. He would call it the shakes or whatever. He had an amazing story with getting on the product. His doctor started seeing differences, wrote him notes, got him off medications. He would tell this story so boldly that everyone in the room answered question number 1 every time. Yes, it works. I know it works. Look at this guy. He couldn't even pour me a drink of milk out of a jug because he would shake so bad. Now, I mean, the poor guy, when he figured out he could do it, he said, everyone's getting milk tonight. He went on the table and poured his whole family a glass of milk just to show them that after 7 years of not being able to, that he could. I mean, amazing, right? But people didn't relate that story to them. Well, I don't have that same problem, so I don't need these products. Because he would only talk about this product doing this benefit for that problem, and he missed the whole concept of all the other products, all our other product lines, everything we have, what it really does to our bodies with oxidative stress. And so understanding the product as a presenter enough to make sure everyone in the room, number 1, knows that it works, and number 2, they know it can work for them. Okay? Those are the first 2. If that happens, you'll have a customer. Okay? Second, 2 questions during a presentation to answer. Number 1, does the business work? Right? So the presenter, I hope, has enough maybe success. Doesn't have to be someone who's very, very successful, but it's nice when you can say, yeah, just Greg, what you said, we've been able to travel the world using the finances from this business. We've been here, we've been able to take care of life situations. We've been able to, for me, it was to pay medical bills that popped up because of an accident. I was able to be home with my, poor paralyzed girls at 2 a.m. when they had the big questions for Dad. Hey, Dad, I got some big questions tonight that are on my mind that I haven't thought about. Can you come talk to me? And guess where I'm at? I'm in the hallway waiting for them to ask, right? I'm not at work. I'm not gone. I'm in the room, right? Waiting. That story will resonate with someone and say, hey, this works, right? And you can get into some specifics. If you use the income statement form, there's some things we can do to help share some of these things legally and a little bit more professional, but let them know that it works, okay? My friend, someone else, use our stories. All those stories are out there so that they know that this business has the potential and it works. Number 2, can it work for them? Probably the hardest question to answer. So many people get to that part. Do I have enough friends? I can't speak as good as you did. I don't know if this works. If you'll learn these phases and bring someone to someone else's meeting, you'll help eliminate that question of, can I do it? Because if you have your friend with you and you brought them to the presentation that someone in phase 2 is doing, it's very easy to say, of course you can do what I did, because all I did tonight is pick you up, drive you here, and I have to buy you ice cream afterwards. That's all my job was, right? Or whatever you committed to. If you can do that, then you can do this, because I'll be here. You're telling your friend, I'll be here to do that presentation for you. Okay. We have push play on videos if you need to. There's ways to simplify that, and I don't want to get in tonight into specifics about how you should present, because I don't know if I think your leaders that are closer to you, because we have people from all over different countries here, different parts of the U.S. I see different. I mean, that's awesome. But the problem is for me to say do it this way. As soon as we get granular, I get a little nervous, because I think there's a lot of, especially right now with the different compensation plans that have been unfolding, there's a lot going on. But I'll just say this: get good at making sure that you can answer those 4 questions. Okay, by using the company story, the timing story, our compensation story, by using the trends, by using our product story, make sure that they know that the product works and it can work for them. The business absolutely works, right? If they don't believe you, that's where I can maybe help. I can make sure they know it works. Now, we all may have a hard time letting them know it's going to work for them, the 4th one, but that's what we hope to do. Because if they will answer those 2 questions, I know it works and I know it will work for me, then you're going to have a business partner. Okay. So always answer all 4 of those as well. Too many times I get nervous when somebody only answers the product works and it'll work for you, and then they hand it to them and they hope to upsell them later, right? What a hard way to do your business is to constantly go back and try to, hey, is it working? Well, there's a business attached. Let me show you. I believe if you can answer all 4 questions at the very beginning, even if they opt out of the business and choose to be a customer, they will know in their mind that it's there, it's available, and they're thinking about it, and it's something that they can be aware of. And then the upsell or this introduction isn't a new introduction, it's just a reminder of what they've already heard. And I've had a lot easier time helping people to become, in the past, distributors and consultants now, by helping them to see the whole picture at the very beginning. So make sure your presentations include those 6 things, answer those 4 questions, and make sure they're complete, right? Now, real quick, I want to say one little quote to the difference between an invite, an invitation, and a presentation. In my opinion, an invitation is 30 seconds and a presentation is 30 minutes, right? Now, let me explain that, because it doesn't mean that it can't be an hour, and it doesn't mean it can't be less. I'm just saying too many times we have an invitation to a friend that we present, and we find out that was a 20-minute conversation, and they know all about superoxide dismutase, they know all about our products, they know what the package costs, they know everything about everything, and we wonder why they didn't come to the meeting. It's because you already gave them a presentation. They think they already know it all, and they've already made a decision. The downfall is they've only gotten 60% of the actual information, but they think it's the whole thing because your invitation was too much of a presentation. So keep in mind, can I have an hour of your time? Yes, what is it? It's only an hour. That's what it is, right? Show up, give me an hour, we're friends, because I don't want someone trying to make a decision without, and I'll tell them that. I'll tell you what, it's going to take me at least an hour to show you this, or 30 minutes, right? I don't want you to hear part of it and try to make a decision. Give me an hour, show up, we'll talk, we'll show you everything, we'll discuss it, and then make a decision, okay? Invitation, 30 seconds, presentation, 30 minutes as a guideline. It will help you eliminate the no-shows to your presentation because you've already given them one in your invitation, right? So let's see if that helps make sense. Phase 1, invitation, phase 2, presentation. That's where those 2 come in. Now, as we're progressing, right, we do the presentation. What if we enroll, I enroll Ren, and Ren enrolls, was that Laura, right? So I enroll Ren, he's in phase 1, I'm in phase 2, brings Laura, right? Laura comes, and now Ren is showing Laura how to become an inviter, how to do a database, how to invite. Ren hopefully is learning to do that presentation. I'm now moving to phase 3. Okay, what is phase 3? You can write this down real quick. It's mentoring and training. Now, my idea of being in phase 3 is to not just leave and tell Ren to do that presentation, right? All by themselves. It's probably to be there. Hey, Ren, why don't you open up, do the presentation? I'll close, I'll edify, support, I'll help. My favorite part of phase 3 mentoring is to take them to dinner afterwards. We had what was it in right by Tucson where IHOP was always open at about 10 o'clock at night. So that's the place we always showed up afterwards. So we'd go do this presentation. We'd let someone else step up into the presentation role. Sometimes they were reading off their cards, right? That's okay. They were learning. Even though I thought, I could do it better. Nope, come on up. That's perfect. And you know how many times I got complimented to say, hey, if you're that supportive and teaching and mentoring that well, I think I can figure this out, right? It wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect. A lot of times we had 3 or 4 presenters in an evening because one would take the company, one would talk about our products, and someone else would talk about our compensation. And I would get up at the end and edify them. I would have to, I call it bringing up the mop. Sometimes you have to mop up a little mess, right? Because they taught the wrong thing, or they shared something very, very uncompliant about the product. You had to fix, no, this, you can't say this cures cancer. I'm sorry, let me fix this. Sometimes I had someone get up there to tell the comp plan and never even talked about it because they're so nervous, right? Perfect situations, because I would go up there at the end, fix it all, do my best in a few minutes to edify, talk about our system, which is number 6 in that list, talk about the process of becoming, talk about these phases, talk about Laura, who's invited tonight, and Ren, who's speaking for the first time tonight, and myself, who's been doing this a while, but I wanted to train them tonight, and how amazing that comes off, right? To them to see a process or a system in becoming a leader and becoming maybe a certain rank or earning a certain income, because that's part of the presentation, and we can help them see how they can get to those spots. So my favorite part about mentoring and training was not just leaving, but literally being there, being involved, but not taking the marker, setting everyone down and doing it myself. Okay. Couple times, and that's what Gabe shared on the virtual call. Do you guys remember what he shared? How he came to me one time and said, I hit Pro 5 at the time. I'm stuck. What do I do? My first question, okay? And I'm gonna give you these questions for each phase. Phase 1 question, if you want to know if somebody has done it, if they've mastered it, or they're in there, just ask them, how many leaders have you enrolled? Okay? You guys should all ask yourselves this question. If I had time, we would go around, make everyone answer that question, at least to yourselves, because if it's 1 or 2, then you're still in that phase. Okay? Everyone is always in that phase. I want to be clear. But if we only have 1 or 2 people, we're like pushing that phase. Right now, I would say carefully that my biggest role would be to get on this call tonight and mentor and train you guys, not necessarily to go to my neighbor, knock on the door and tell them about our products, right? Now, not that that can't happen and shouldn't happen, but I believe my hour here is more valuable to more people than 1 hour there, right? Now, that wasn't the case at first because I didn't have this team to talk to, so all my hours was spent in phase 1 until I had a big enough team, right? And to be honest, we enrolled 25 people in 90 days. That's what we did. So after 25 people in 90 days, guess what happens to your schedule? You have 25 people saying, can I come to the meeting? I have people, I'm learning how to do phase 1. I have 10 people that need to see it. I got 3 people here. I got someone that needs a phone call. You become the presenter very quick. And not that you shouldn't invite and enroll, but your presenter hat your schedule gets so full. We were doing, at one point we talked about 15 presentations a month, every other day. Well, those were home meetings with 5 guests in a living room every other day. Typically, we had a lunch, a dinner, and a home meeting every single day, right? I would take my Sundays off. I would push the other 6. And we were doing, 6 nights or 10 presentations a week because we counted our lunches and our dinners. Sometimes there were group meetings. So that was the pace that we ran out. Now, I don't ever tell anyone stop enrolling, or I don't want to hear, well, Blue said I'm in phase 2. I don't need to enroll people. That's not what I'm ever going to say. But I will say, if you enroll 25 people in 90 days, I have a feeling you're going to be doing so many presentations the next month that you probably won't have a bunch of enrollments. Okay. And it's not a bad thing if you're helping those 25 people, right? Bring in 5 people each. That's what your new job is. Your new skill set isn't necessarily shaking the bushes now. You got 25 distributors waiting and ready to run. Our role was to present for them. Okay. Now, how many of those stepped up in the presentation role? A little bit. Remember, Gabe? Question, how many leaders have you enrolled? Number 1, Gabe had enrolled a ton of leaders. Man, I got this person and this person and this person. I used to say people. How many people have you enrolled? I say leaders because it gives a little different mindset of someone who's not just a customer, not just involved, but they're doing something, right? Second question I asked him, how many presentations did you do last month? Okay. You know what his answer was? All of the days. How many days did you present is what he thought I said. He said all of them. He was doing 20 to 30 presentations a month. He actually put himself in the hospital twice, I believe. Gabe was running, okay? So he hit Pro 3 overnight by just enrolling those people. He hit Pro 5 very quickly by doing those presentations. But he was stuck there because of why. My next question in phase 3, this is the question you want to ask to see if someone's in phase 3. So phase 1 is how many leaders have you enrolled? Depending on their answer, you'll know where they're at. Number 2, how many presentations did you do last month? If they say 0, then you're teaching them to present, getting them comfortable with that. Gabe didn't need that. Number 3, my question was this. How many people on your team are doing presentations? Probably the most powerful question, if you can learn to ask and help somebody get a better answer to that question, your business will grow. Depth will happen in your business. Leader backed by leader backed by leader, right? The MVP, if you think about what the MVP is, I enrolled 3, I helped somebody in those 3 enroll 3, I helped those 9 enroll 3, and there's 27. That is exactly what we're doing. That program lines up with these phases so perfectly that you can hit the bronze level by being in phase 1 and doing it. You can hit the silver level by doing phase 2 for those first 3 that you put in until they hit it. But you can only get to the gold if you learn to do phase 3 and become a leader. How many people on your team are doing presentations? Do you remember what he said his answer was? That nobody. He's like, yeah, the truth is, Gabe's a little bit type A, right? I mean, him and I, he kind of sized me up a little bit and said, do you know how good my presentations are? He's like, do you realize that I'm doing a good present? Like, he thought I was questioning his presentation. He missed the fact that I was questioning the amount of presentations he can do by himself in a month. That's what I was questioning. I don't care how many, 30 is the max, right? Or maybe 40 if you count a lunch here or there or do 2 meetings a night. You might get it up there, but he was literally killing himself by himself doing presentations. So my question is, how many in your team are doing it? Was not to question his ability, but his process, right? In becoming and mentoring people. Because if there's no one on your team doing presentations, then you're not mentoring, you're not training, you're just presenting. You're talking to guests when you need to be talking to some consultants and distributors. Phase 2, you're talking to guests. In phase 3, you learn to talk to distributors and consultants. Okay. Tonight I'm in phase 3, right? That's what I'm doing tonight. I'm helping distribute. There's no guest on this call. We're not talking about the products and the details. We're talking about phases of you guys becoming leaders, right? Phase 4, write this down. Don't sweat over it, but it is mentoring mentors. I will say tonight, if this call was full, right, of maybe EC1s, right, equivalent to maybe our old, like a Pro 7, but our EC1 mentality, if this was full of 10 EC1s, right, and they asked me to speak, I would call that mentoring mentors. I wouldn't have to cover certain things because they've already done it to become an EC, right? But I would love to talk to them because we can have a conversation about some of these things as mentoring a mentor, okay? Fishing yourself, teaching someone to fish, handing out 10 fishing poles and training 10 people how to fish, right? Or teaching somebody how to teach someone to fish. That's a different set of skills. Doing it yourself, teaching someone else to do it, teaching someone to teach someone, it took me a long time to figure that out, right? Before I could hit this presidential rank, I had to figure out how to mentor mentors, right? Without upsetting them. You got a bunch of leadership personalities. So that's why I'm not getting into all that tonight. But mentoring mentors, how many people on your team are doing presentations? That's where I'd like to end tonight in thinking about that. Answer that question. And if you can this month, your job is to make sure to grab 2 or 3 or 4 people, 5 people on your team, help them feel comfortable presenting, help them do their 15 presentations this month. What happens when you do 15 presentations a month? You'll have some movement, you'll have some success, right? Even go back further, what happens when you bring people to 15 presentations this month, right? Second thing, when you do 15 presentations this month and there's 5 guests in each of those presentations, you're going to see the exposure rate is increasing. When your exposure rate increases, you have more success, right? But my challenge to you is this. My challenge was always to find 10 people and get them doing phase 2. 10 people doing 15 presentations a month. That's 150 presentations. Let's say you have 2 to 5 people in each of those presentations. That exposure rate is what's needed to get to the next level, okay? That's the difference, in my opinion, of someone who's stuck for a long time at a certain rank because they are professionals, they have the marker, they're on the Zoom, they have control. That person will do well. They manage their business, they do okay. The person who goes past what I would consider an EC1, right, that Pro 7 to a presidential or Pro 8, Pro 9, Pro 10 mentality of presidential, those levels will happen when somebody lets go of the marker, hands it to 10 people, hands them the baton, and lets them do their part. Now, last thing I want to talk about, you guys, do not throw a baton at somebody and say you're up. It's yours tonight. Good luck. There is a delicate way. I'll put it this way, and I hope this makes sense. I grew up on a ranch, so this makes sense to me. It is good to push the little bird out of the nest and make them fly, right? But make sure they have wings first. That makes sense? Think about that. Too many people, I'm just going to push them out of the nest. If they don't have wings yet, they are not going to make it. They're going to be so scared and fail so bad, and it's going to be so hard. It's going to be just like I told you it was, and I'm not ready for that. You will crush a leader who gets pushed out too soon. You will also cripple a leader if you do every meeting for them when they're ready to be the leader. So where's that balance? That is where mentoring mentors is. That's what's becoming a leader, is figuring that out, okay? Now, there's not a simple answer, but there's definitely people who are ready. How do you find out they're ready? Here's how you do that. You give them a little part. Can you please talk about our products tonight, and I'll do the rest? Absolutely. You get on a Zoom, someone jumps in, they take 5 or 10 minutes. Number one, you're watching if they can keep in a time frame. Number two, you're watching if they're doing it compliant. Are they bringing up pertinent points? Are they answering those 2 questions? Can the products work, and can they work for the person on the call? If they're answering all those questions, they got it figured out. You know how many times I help somebody do the product first, and then I help them do timing, and then I help them talk about the company. Later, I help them talk about maybe the compensation plan, and then the system. And after I heard them present all of those pieces, then I'm going to say, hey, that meeting tonight, it's yours. I'm going to cover the end. I'll take the last 5 minutes, but it's yours. I don't know if I can do it. Yeah, you can, because I've already watched you teach all of those components. You have the feathers. I am more than happy to push that person out of the nest, lovingly, supportingly, edify them at the end. What an amazing job tonight. I have never heard that powerful of a meeting. That was amazing. Great job. Let me clean up a couple things, or let me add my support to that. Let me give you my story about this product. Let me give you my compensation story. Let me help answer those 4 questions. But great job. And that person will run. They'll fill their calendar full of meetings. Most importantly, they will start helping their personals, their teammates who are in phase 1, and they'll take the phase 2 role, right? And then when you do that over and over and over again, you have 10 people who've all taken the phase 2 role, right? Luckily, I did that before I got injured and ended up in the hospital, because we had, you guys, and Kyle, you'll remember, Greg, you guys remember how full the Big Blue calendar was way back when? There was times I would count on the Big Blue calendar, and we had
Yes.
20 presentations just on our team on the calendar, right? I would go to bed at night. I would wake up in the morning to 150 new enrollments, right? Can you guys imagine that a little bit? At the end of the month, there was months we had 3,500 new enrollments. I only did my 15 presentations, and I only helped enroll my maybe 25, 30 people, right, in those meetings. But guess what? We had 10 or 15 or 20 presenters, sometimes every night on our team. Kai was doing one, Chris Michaels was out doing it. Everyone was doing their own business, owning their business. We talked about ownership and all those things. And when I got injured and had to be in the hospital, you think our business fell apart? Not at that point, because the well that Greg talked about that we're digging wasn't just some big rank with income. It was leader back by leader back by leader in depth, so that when something happened, all of these people just kept doing what they're doing. I had someone call and say, hey, do you have any meetings I can do for you? Right? I want to help you because you helped me for so long. And I didn't miss no one missed a presentation. Everything got covered. It was amazing to watch what took place while I had to take care of my family. And it was because these phases were taught. Okay. Now, when you hear someone talk about inviting, write it in as bettering yourself in phase one. When somebody teaches you how to present, put those notes in phase 2 page, right? I have a different section in every notebook, right? In a notebook on every section on those 3 phases. So you can write down information on those phases and master them. The last thing tonight, guys, find out what phase you're in and what you need to do to get to the next phase. Find out what you're already good at. Ask yourself, how many have I enrolled? How many presentations did I do last month? How many people on my team are doing presentations? Answer those questions, figure out where you are, and commit to yourself to get to the next phase. Commit yourself to figure out the next phase, master it, become the type of person who can run the size of business that you want to have. One of my other favorite quotes that we came up with one day, right? You need to become the type of person that can run the size of business that you want to have. If you want a $1 million business, you need to become a mentor of mentors. You need to do that by being good at inviting, being good at presenting, being good at training and presenting, and then eventually having a big enough team that you have 10 Kai Hayes on your team, right? And you're supporting them, right? When that happens, you kind of pinch yourself wondering what just happened, right? Life changes a little bit. You have some options in life. You have some finances to do what you need to do in life, and it's amazing. So I'm going to leave you with one last definition, right? And then I know we're tight on time. My little clock is so small I can barely see it. I know we're a little after. I apologize. Let me just say this: it's integrity. Okay, too many times we hear something, we feel it, we commit to it, and then we leave tomorrow and it goes away, right? And these calls being a month apart is way too long apart to have it go away for another 3 or 4 weeks, and we get back together and you get pumped up again and you feel it and we go back out. Now, I know there's other things going on to help with that, but here's a definition that I hope sticks with you, okay? What is integrity? Integrity is this. It's the ability to do the deed, okay, after the emotion of the moment has passed, okay? It's powerful if you think about that. Some people say it's what you do when no one's looking, right? Which is true, right? There's times I'm driving home at midnight after doing a meeting wondering, is anyone else doing this, right? We had a little call group. We'd call people and, hey, where are you at? Where are you at? I'd call Brandon Cunningham, and he's on the East Coast, still driving home from his meeting at 2 a.m, right? Because of time change. And we would talk to keep ourselves awake, okay? Integrity, right? It's doing what you say you're going to do when no one's looking. But I love this concept of the ability to do the deed. Right now, you have commitments, you have thoughts, you have deeds that you want to do, you have goals you're setting. True integrity is the ability to remember those and do them after this emotion is gone, this energy is gone, this excitement is gone, this call is over. Tomorrow you wake up and laundry still has to be done, the dishes have to be washed, breakfast has to be cooked for the kids, and you're back into the normal routine, and you got to remember what you committed to. Those who can do that, right, and follow through with the commitments you made today or tonight, those are the ones who will rise to the top and have true followers, because they're going to want to be like you. They're going to want to say, how did you do that? Why are you smiling in this mess of a world? Why are you okay financially when everyone else is falling apart, right? Those questions you can answer by saying, let me show you, right? Let me show you. There's reasons. One is because I have a list of skills that I've learned. I have true integrity to myself. I set goals and I go out and accomplish them. And I have a group of leaders willing to help me to do that. And that's what we are. We're just help. We can't give you success. We can give you a path. We can give you, LifeVantage has helped given us a product, a comp plan. We have a path. We have everything we need, but we can't give you success. You have to go find that, but we can help. We can do our part. And I have a feeling you'll realize between Kai and Greg and many of you on this call, you guys will realize when you take a step, most of your leaders will take two. I'll say that. I've seen leaders take 3 or 4 when somebody takes 1. Sometimes people take 5 and their leader takes 1. There's been many examples here where that's been the opposite, right? We have good leaders in this company. We have good people willing to help, willing to love on you, willing to support you. Even with everything else going on, they're here, they keep showing up, and corporate is the same way. So our next call, you guys, I will get with Eric again and get an update from him. I didn't ask him to prepare that for today, but I will. We'll keep that going as well. Thank you, guys. I'll turn it back to you. My family was heading out to a movie. I'm going to go catch them tonight because they were heading out. I don't want to miss the whole thing, but I didn't want to miss any of this. Again, sorry I went a little long, but I just hope this training feels like a foundation that you can hold on to, because I can guarantee you those that went to the top of this company in some way or another followed this process. Some did it online, they did it different ways, but you have to invite, you have to enroll to have a team, you have to learn to present to them and for them, and then you have to teach them to present so that they have the skill set needed. So when you're not in their hometown, or when you leave the country, right, Kai, when you have to go home for a little bit, everything keeps moving because people there say, I got this, I can do it, I own it, I have the skill set. When ownership gets taken, you're unstoppable. So
thank you, Blue. Thank you so much. Love you guys. Thank you. I hope you learned so much. He is awesome. Now you understand the 4 phases, huh? So you're not going to be overwhelmed. So, but please, I love you, and let's do this together. We're just one phone call away. Okay? We're dedicated and committed to you. Ciao.